This week, rugby fans get the shock of their lives in a big brand April Fool's Day joke. A university is stepping up its game with a new marketing strategy. Legendary ad man Francois de Villiers, he's the man behind ad catchphrases like Yebo Gogo and Met Aish, reflects on the state of advertising. And in one short video, we'll show you everything that is wrong with the ad industry. All ahead on Mags on Media. All right, first up this week, how two universities are meeting head-on the challenge of marketing. These days, I would suggest to you, in the battle for young minds, the institution with a strong brand is going to have the inside track. So let's start this week with the University of Johannesburg and its strategy and execution as we talk to Professor Nina de Klerk, who heads the Department of Communication, along with Jeremy Bouwer from the agency Mortimer Harvey. To both of you, welcome. It's good to talk to you. Nina, let me start with you. I don't want to talk about UJ to start with. Just very broadly, I would suggest to you we have an oversupply of students in this country and not enough tertiary institutions. Why do universities need to brand and to advertise?
Jeremy, quite correct. There is an oversupply, and that's exactly why universities need to brand. I speak under correction, but if you look at the World Bank figures, I think in terms of supply, there's about a 5% proportion of PhD students compared to perhaps the oversupply of undergraduate students. So what the UJ did was moving from accessible excellence to global stature and excellence, and that requires more postgraduate students.
What was the challenge that you put down to the agency? Then, Jeremy, you can tell me how you picked it up.
UJ is probably the most demographically diverse institution in the country. It deals with a spectrum of cultures, of ethnicity, of the wealthy and not so wealthy. And that makes it an interesting university, but also situated in the business hub, not only of the country, but of Africa. So the brand positioning was the Pan-African epicenter of critical inquiry and engagement and reflection, which incidentally was the reason that President Barack Obama chose the UJ Soweto campus as the seat of his Youth African
To the agency then. Jeremy, what did you do?
I think the great challenge for us was to move from what was largely the UJ advertising was very much aimed at undergrads, and all of a sudden start getting the university recognized on a global stage. And we started with the insight that really, in today's world, everyone has to be the best global you. I mean, we no longer just compete nationally or in South Africa. We are all competing on a global stage. And we started uncovering some phenomenal stories that UJ has actually done in the past and is currently doing on a global stage that has real-world applications. We've tried to tell it in an interesting way as opposed to sort of a lecture format, so it's very engaging for consumer, and we embarking on quite an ambitious content curation role. So we're actually going to be putting out a supplement every second month, which will almost be in a magazine format, which we'll band with one of the newspapers, where we can actually tell people, you know, day to day, people are the amazing things the university is doing, but also how it's relevant in Johannesburg, because I think that's the heart of where this university is.
So it sounds on point, it sounds creatively excellent, but no advertising is going to work unless there is a measurable goal.
Of course, advertising has to be effective. And we discussed measurable results all along. You know, alumni should get involved, but not only involved, it should translate into, you know...
take their checkbooks out, I think is what you're trying to say. Yes, I'll say
ultimately.
It for you. Yes.
And yes, we've got goalposts as we go along.
Jeremy, any brand that is extolling its virtues as you're doing now has to live up to the promise continually. That art of accomplishment that you refer to has to be lived and breathed all the time. It's difficult sometimes to get all stakeholders, a multiplicity of stakeholders in a university respect, all on the same page.
It is part of the advertising challenge, and we actually embarking on quite a big internal communication plan, because it's not just an advertising campaign. I think this is almost a brand campaign where we're getting the the staff and the various faculties to actually live the same sort of philosophy that we're putting in place. So everyone, you know, we launched Art of Accomplishment to the internal staff 2 weeks ago, and now it's quite interesting to track the excitement of how they are all professing to do it, and also the goals that they've set living up to 2025.
The staff, the academics, and certainly the students are all buying in because they find it to be a very exciting and strategic direction. And as to your point, Jeremy, I'd just like to make the point, you know, there's a new trend towards flawsome brands, no longer flawless brands. And I think, you know, even if UJ from time to time attracts controversy, that's good. I mean, as Reg Lascara said in his book, Lessons from the Boot of a Car, controversy, if well managed, adds to the interest.
Adds to the interest and the spice of the brand. Nina de Klerk, Jeremy Bouwer, thank you very much indeed for joining us today. All right, let's move on to another tertiary institution now, and a new ad from the Nelson Mandela University in Port Elizabeth. It has both a television and a social media component. The advertising agency is Boomtown. All the talent used, I'm told, is local, and you'll recognize the famous voice of actor John Carney.
Takes you a step closer to your destiny. Dreamers turn to doers.
On this April Fool's Week, brands and media houses have been falling over themselves to trick the public. There was a collective groan from South African rugby fanatics as Springbok sponsor ABSA announced that the Boks green and gold kit would be changed to red and gold to match the colour of the brand. And this is how it was announced.
We've been sponsoring the Springboks for a long time. You know, it's a very, very powerful brand, the Springboks, and you know, their colour is green. We've also, obviously, big brand, ABSA, we have the colour red. So we figured we've got a couple of years left on our contract. How do we get the maximum return out of that? And, you know, how do we really just up our marketing bang for a buck? And we figured, well, changing the jersey would probably be a good way to do that. ABSA's very red.
It's progressive, it's new.
International rugby comes down to millimetres. And if the change of the colour of a jersey is that difference that wins us the next World Cup, we're going to make that change.
Red seems to be the colour if you want to show you got power.
I think it's a powerful colour.
Happy to change. Change is good.
Any change, I think, can be positive or negative. I think this is a positive change.
If they want to change it to red and they think it's going to be a positive for the team, so be it.
It's quite an interesting concept. I'd go for it.
Obviously, there's a risk, but everybody knows ABSA, it's red. We didn't think it was too much of a leap, to be honest.
It's absolutely the right decision.
Icons change all the time.
Sponsorship in professional sport is hugely important, and without big corporate sponsors like ABSA, you know, there wouldn't be professional rugby, there wouldn't be professional sport. So basically they dictate what goes around. So I think it's really nice of them to keep the gold.
It's not like we've changed the name, it's still the Springboks.
Great teams in the past have won us, teams like Manchester United, and I think we can certainly prevent the opposition of our red jerseys.
How much do we want to hark back to the past for? I mean, we might as well look to the future. It's a nice jersey, it's a pretty nice design.
People should support the Springboks, whether they play in red and gold or in green and gold, doesn't really matter. You know, for me, it's as long as there's a Springbok on there and the guys are proud to put this jersey on, you know, we as South Africans should support them 100%.
All the guys are positive from the aspect of changing the jerseys to red. I think we're all supportive and we can't wait to get back on that field wearing our red jerseys.
Well, what do you think? Certainly an idea well executed, we think, and it got ABSA and the Springboks trending for some time on Twitter. Coming up on the programme, we'll visit the legendary adman Francois de Villiers, along with his business partner Glyn Venter, at the home of the Haas Collective Agency in Cape Town.
News that moves. ENCA.com.